Welcome to the 48th Annual Atlanta Photojournalism Seminar. Each evening this week, we'll be featuring abbreviated judging videos from different categories of our contest. Tonight, we begin with Sports Action, followed by Sports Feature. The consensus from the judges was that this year's Sports Action category had fewer entries than usual, but we expected that because of COVID-19 and so many sporting events and even seasons that were canceled because of the pandemic. The Sports Feature category, which follows Sports Action tonight, was particularly strong with 87 entries total. Judging can't happen without judges, and so I want to thank Carlos Gonzalez, a freelancer out of Minneapolis, and my longtime friend Damian Strohmeyer out of Boston, who is a storied Sports Illustrated photographer. If you're an educator or a photojournalism student, don't worry. All of these videos will end up on our YouTube channel so that you can reference them during classes. What you're about to hear and see is not the judging in these two categories in their entirety. This is the tail end of the judging for each category, where you get to experience the difficulty in culling down a ton of images to just 4 places. Check our website to see the winners at photojournalism.org. Without further ado, let's go ahead and roll video. Sports Action first.
But Pat, you're saying reaction though is supposed to go in feature,
you just have to look at a single picture showing participation that shows the absolute peak moment of action.
Yeah, so that's probably more sports feature.
Yeah.
Yes, I would agree.
If we're going,
I think you can make
and that's the problem with this one. It's a beautiful picture, but it.
Yeah, exactly. That's in the wrong category.
Yeah.
This is in the right category. This is in the wrong. So.
Yeah, there's not a lot of really peak action here.
Right.
But I like that swim picture, and I like that the soccer goalie with the the remote, and I like the baseball picture, the tight one. And then I start,
really strong.
That's so. Is there a way we can look at just 2 pictures side by side? So the 2 soccer remotes, can we kind of look at those? And
no,
those are both pretty good.
But I can do them. I can just put. Well, the one thing I would say is this is peak action. The other one is too late. I mean, in my opinion, it's over. I mean, it is the goal, but it's like the goal's already happened.
Framing could be a little better too. If the feet are cut off down the bottom and stuff. Although maybe not. No, the caption's running over the middle of it.
Yeah,
that's all.
So I can remove the caption.
Yeah,
that's the whole thing. So sorry about that. So let me go back to the whole deal. Let me just refresh here, make sure we're. Yeah. So is there anything that's screaming that we should get rid of? Or do you want to try and, do you see a first place? Do you see like of what's here? Do you see something that's first or second?
Actually, can we just kind of eliminate a couple first? Was that?
Okay sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I just like the picture. It's not going to place here, I don't think, but the one with the multiple soccer players.
Yes.
I like the picture when I saw it because I mean, you got like 2 teams basically right there on the field, which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
So,
but
I don't think it's going to place for me.
You good with that, Damian?
I would agree with Carlos on that. Okay. Interesting picture, but probably not. First off, not very fitting for the category. I don't think either.
Right. I agree.
About peak action.
Sure. Okay, so that one's gone.
And then, so what are we going to do about the skier photo then? Because
the what? I'm sorry, the what photo?
The multiple skiers going up the hill there. I guess cross country skiers. Does it fit the category?
To me, Carlos, to correct me if I think that could be the best picture in the whole.
Yeah. No, I like the picture a lot for sure. I'm just if we're being really strict about the definition, then what do we do here then?
Now here's the thing, like the definition is a definition. However, you guys are the judges. If you want to award it a place, I mean, I see exactly where you're going. It's a beautiful picture, but it's not peak action. But if you want to do an honorable mention or third or something like that, you can do that. So you're not forced to delete it because of that. You can still,
Okay.
What do we think, Carlos? Here's what I think. I think there are 2 pictures that I'm looking at, those dozen or whatever is left here, 13.
Yeah.
That jump out to me as being, fitting for the category. The baseball picture, the tight baseball picture, I think, pretty good. And then the other one is, I think the soccer goalie picture with the goalie making contact is probably the next best picture, and it's executed pretty well.
Yeah.
Then after that, I think the swim picture would, I think, is it peak action? I don't know. I know that's not an easy picture to get.
Oh, for
Shoot
sure.
that
Right.
picture a lot of times and not get that picture.
Yeah,
Right.
I agree.
But then after that,
The other thing I'll notice too is that this is it's a medley team relay event. So this is an actual, I've stood at the side of the pool during practice trying to get this and I can't get it.
Right.
So yeah, it's a hard one, no doubt.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's fun. I kind of I agree with all those, Damien. I kind of even like the guy crashing in the wall there.
Yeah.
You could argue that it's a little late, but the whole point is like at this point he hit the wall and he's kind of crushing in. So I would argue that is still peak for me, and I just like it.
Here's what I would say about that, and again, I don't know because I don't have the the original file sitting here in front of me.
Yeah.
But to me, I think you should have cropped that into a left to right picture and put that him all the way on the left, let the ball more in the center, and so you get more of a sense of the wall.
Yeah.
It's like a lot. It's like so many sports pictures now because we're not focusing anything. Everything is center weighted.
Yeah. I'm sure because I'm sure it's backed off. There's room to work with a different crop would have definitely helped for sure.
Yeah, a better crop I think would have helped. But I do like the picture. I mean, it did one of the things that easily stood out. First off, does anybody have any empathy for either the I guess it's the Preakness, maybe it's the Derby, the remote picture, the fisheye, or the picture next to that, which is like I don't know, is it soccer? Probably. No, it's like football, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. I like the horse racing photo. For me, it's not a top 4.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking too.
Yeah. Yeah. So I like it, but yeah, I don't think it's gonna be a top 4 for me.
The other thing is that I don't know if you can see this, but the main rider's soft. It's back focused. Like the focus is way back here.
Yeah.
So if you look at the sand, yeah, you probably can't see that, but I can.
Oh yeah, I can't really tell that, but yeah.
Okay.
So do you want? Yeah, well, Carlos, I agree with you. I think But what about again, I get crazy judges here going on. But what about upper right, far right, the quad picture?
It's a nice photo.
Is it too graphic to fall into the category, or is it? I mean, I don't.
I think that's peak action.
At best, I think it's an honorable mention, but I think it might be worth hanging around. Maybe try to solidify the peak action thing a little bit more.
Yeah. How about
what can we get rid of? Nobody say anything about this. Can we get rid of this?
Get rid of it. The ball's too far away. I mean, those pictures are pretty prevalent these days. I don't see that being. Yeah.
And are we keeping this or no?
Let's keep it for now.
Yeah, for now.
I just doesn't quite get it. You just can't quite see what's going on with this picture.
It's really close though.
Exactly. It's like if you could see the eye of the bull, something like that, it would be enough, but not quite.
Is this one going to hold up?
I think so for a bit.
For now, yeah.
That's definitely in.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That's definitely in. So I don't know. This is a football game, but is it women's football? Is that the deal? Or
I think it's a kid with long hair.
Yeah, I think it's just good long hair.
God, I can't keep up with anything anymore.
Yeah.
That's a nice sports photo right there. I mean, geez,
It is.
Yeah, but don't you think that's kind of your standard Minneapolis Star Tribune, Minnesota football or something like that kind of? I mean, I don't see it.
You're saying good daily work, but not
good daily work, right? Exactly,
yeah.
But maybe not.
Yeah.
It's close.
Yeah,
actually, great daily work.
I'd be happy if I came home with this. So yeah.
Oh yeah. I know you can't shoot a lick. I've seen your photos.
I can't argue with that. I was
in Minneapolis. I went around looking for you because I just wanted to shake your hand. Maybe something would fall off of me.
Are we deleting this one, or are
can we just keep it for now?
Because we're going to get down to I think to 5.
We can lose this. I think, right?
Definitely.
We did already.
And I think we can lose this too.
So can we look at the ones like now the new edited version of what we're taking?
Let me come back and then we'll refresh and then we're going to see. We're doing well. We got to get to 4.
Okay.
So
Yeah. You want to play around with the we didn't lose the
yeah, this is supposed to be gone. Sorry about that. Okay. Let's get a refresh. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem.
What about this guy?
I think the other one's a lot better, and it shouldn't be one soccer. But
And you can award 2 different places to 2 soccer pictures. It's not a problem. You don't have to, you know what I mean? So
yeah, no, I don't want to. I like it. I think I just like the other one a lot more.
I do too. I think it's close but no cigar. That's what I think.
Okay.
You know, not quite.
But a nice frame.
So now we're down to 8.
Okay.
We're halfway there.
Well, I think you got to take the high school basketball picture out because it's a reaction and not an action. And I don't know. I could be talked out of it, but
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, getting down there now.
Yeah.
I think the college football or whatever it is, high school football with the helmet flying off, I think that can go too.
Okay.
Carlos, step up, man. Don't let meathead like me run the show here.
No, not at all. I like the photo, so I wanted to see it in the mix. Even looking at this now, it's not a top 4 for me, I guess, but I liked it a lot. So
we just have to get rid of 2, or it might be easier to look at it from the standpoint you guys can start awarding first, second, third, whatever.
Well, can we kind of put things in a place and kind of look at it that way?
Actually, if you put it in a place, it'll just be listed over here. So it's but I mean you can do it, but it won't go away or whatever. So
okay. So you can't physically move it to one spot or the other. So
I don't think so. I don't think the software can do that. Sorry about that.
Okay.
It's a good idea though.
Yeah.
Well, I lean toward the tight baseball picture or the soccer picture.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay. I am going to weigh in here. I think that because he's already on the ground, I think this one's better to me somehow. Like I don't know, but
because you don't know if the ball's already bounced or anything in that baseball picture. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah. Well, no, I'm just thinking about at the peak moment of action. Like, what is the peak moment? To me, this is still peak, but this is really fingertips on a ball in the goal with all those guys watching at night. That's a hell of a picture.
Plus the goalie's face, like not hit by the strings of the net. That's pretty nice too.
Right.
Yeah, framed in there really nicely.
Yeah.
And
but this is pretty
great.
peak. You can see where that dust is moving. Yeah.
It is. And they're sliding, and I'm sure that hurt.
For sure. And also too, maybe we're kind of gravitating to this just because it's, nice light daytime and, always say, and it just pops with color.
Well, it's tighter than snot. I mean, it's a great
definitely.
crop. I mean, the person's really did a great job here, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would be okay if the soccer was 1. I don't.
Soccer 1, baseball 2.
I could do that.
Swimming 3.
Let's look at. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I could do swimming 3.
Then what do you think on is that whatever it is? It's probably that phony biathlon sport or whatever it is.
You just say swimming 3, right?
Yeah.
Swimming 3. I think. What do you think, Pat?
I think at this point they're all great. My big thing was these 2. I really feel pretty strongly about this one. It's a great picture over here, but this one does it for me.
So we're unanimous on 1 and 2, and it sounds like swimming may. I think swimming might be a little bit over, but then you get into, do you do a graphic picture for the honorable mention? And you could do either one. You could do
interchangeable.
The field or the whatever that is, biathlon, whatever that is. Whoever thought that up as a sport, by the way, that's ridiculous.
This one doesn't hold up for me anymore. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, the ear may be a little too high in the frame.
I mean, I just think that this picture is so much better, even though it's not that peak. It's just like But whatever you guys think too. I mean,
Yeah.
What do you
Did this
think, Carlos?
Yeah, I could I could go with that. I could go with the skiers as an honorable mention.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
okay. Honorable mention. And so the only thing we have first, third, so second place was this, correct?
Correct.
Okay, second place. I think we're done. That's awesome.
Nice.
So let me refresh this and make sure that it shows on the left, and it does. So I'm gonna just did not place, just so it's clean. Yeah, that's really nice.
All nice pictures.
Yeah. You do a nice presentation with it. Colors are great in all of them.
Yeah. Okay, 17 left.
Top row number 1. I think I can go.
I agree.
Even though he is helping me up off the ground, you probably should feel a little better about that.
Was that your picture?
No.
I was gonna say, whoa.
So the baseball bullpen shot, second row,
Yep.
first frame. We could probably lose that now. I like it though.
Yeah, I think it's a nice picture, and
Yeah.
like very opportunistic to be there too.
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
And then the fact of a ball hit there, I mean, you're just like, oh, thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, exactly. You could wait a long time to get that.
Oh,
done.
for sure.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, like
Yeah, like a season.
yeah.
Like a season.
No administration change while that picture's laid
Yeah.
down. Yeah, I think that can probably go.
What about this one?
Yeah. There's another jubilation that's better,
Yeah.
I think.
I agree.
Okay.
We could probably lose the Kentucky Derby, although I like the photo.
Yeah, it's got this like kind of nostalgic look to it.
For sure.
You know, very, could drag your 4x5 up there onto the concourse and shoot that picture.
Do you want to keep it, Damien?
No, I don't think it's quite that level, but it's a nice picture and
Beautiful.
very good news photograph. Had a lot of information.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
It could have been entered general news. Actually, it would have been done well.
Yeah.
I think.
Actually, yeah, you're right. You're right. Really well there.
What about this one?
Yeah, I think I can go now.
Yeah, we can lose that now too. Nice light.
Nice, so I like it though.
Yeah.
What in row 1, the second frame? What's going on there? Ski jumping? Is that what it is?
It's a ski jump, and I guess. Well, I don't know. Let's see what it says. Innsbruck.
Nordic Four Hills. Yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
don't know.
Nordic, yeah. Must be, or cross country skiing, one or the other, but.
Although they look like they're off the snow though, so yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think that's probably going to have to go at some point because even though it's very graphic and very interesting, I don't know that it got enough information in it.
Yeah, I might agree with that. Really nice picture though. I like it a lot.
It is really nice.
Yeah, it's really interesting looking.
Seems like whenever people start panning and doing stuff like this, it's always overexposed too. I don't know why. But
Yeah.
Well, it's tough with snow too. You're kind of
it
hosed.
is. Yeah, definitely.
And look at his double truck though.
Yeah. Why don't we look at them closer again and just so you guys can see them.
Can we see the top left photo, the ski jumper or snowboard, whatever that is? I just want to say that I like the photographer like saw this and tried it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's going to hold up top 4 for me, but I like that they saw this and tried to make this picture.
Couple things about it to me in terms of like you're really making a graphic image here, and composition should be the king on this. It'd be better if that tunnel was a little further to the left of the frame and the skier was a little further to the right.
To the right, yeah.
And then you'd have it perfectly composed, and then you would kind of, have it.
Or you could do a vertical.
Really nice. That may not be possible
drop
too. There may be there could be an enormous hole in the ground if you go.
Right.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
But I think to me it would be a little better if you could pull the bottom a little bit to the left and pull the top a little bit to the right.
Yeah. Or just maybe a longer lens to compress it a little bit more or something.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, something like that.
Is this did not place?
No, but I just want to tell the photographer that I like what they're seeing here.
Yeah,
Okay. Gotcha.
exactly. You got to be able to see that.
The top right diver swimmer. Again, I think I like what the photographer's seeing here. I don't know if this is going to hold up as the top 3 for me, but I think it's good seeing for sure.
I'm with you on that, Carlos. I think the thing about this is that this is probably at a rec center or something where you've got to kind of take what you get. It's too bad the swimmer's form doesn't correlate more closely with the mural on the wall.
Right. Although the fact that it doesn't actually makes it nice, so they have some depth because they're not touching anything's behind them. It really gives them some separation. So it's actually, it kind of works out pretty well. But yeah, I don't think it's a top 4. But good seeing again. I like what they did here in this situation.
Well, another thing too is like that's not an Olympic situation. That's not like some kind of world championship. That's down to the YMCA, I suppose.
Yeah,
that means that the photographer had to work and find it and then make the picture.
For sure.
Can I see the caption on row 2, the number 3, the one that says Budweiser in the background? Oh, okay, just a regular game. Okay.
I don't know. Did we lose the top left one?
Yeah, are we going to?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Well, we haven't really talked about this wrestling picture. Be row 1, number 1.
Yeah.
It's an interesting find, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Everyone's in costume too, which is fun. Or I don't know if everyone's a wrestler there or something. It's kind of weird.
Yeah. It is definitely a sports feature.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and everything about it, the neighbor, the woman in the lower right, is adding to it with that bright yellow dress and the expression, and then, it's got this kind of like, neighborhoody feel.
Yeah.
But this must be something else because there's people in the crowd that are dressed up also.
Sure.
So maybe it's like Mardi Gras or something like that. Oh, it is Mardi Gras. Okay. All right.
Oh, okay. French, okay. And I like the wrestler's face on the ground too. That's like he's got his eyes.
Yeah, that makes it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd like to keep this. I'd like to keep this in the mix.
I agree.
Looking at this, the soccer, the women's soccer gym that we just saw. I don't know. I don't know if that holds up as a top 3 for me. Do you still like it, Damon?
Which one? I'm sorry.
The one we're looking at right now. Does that hold up for you?
Probably not. Yeah, I think I think of the 2 soccer pictures, it's the weaker of the 2. The 2 that are left.
A crop from the left would have helped though, probably. So it'd have been like maybe this a vertical or something, where it's just like the 2 women with their arms up and then like the orange player in the front kind of thing.
Yeah, that's always easier to talk about as a judge than it is as a photographer to do
it. Absolutely.
I should have shot that vertically. Like, why didn't you shoot this vertical? So because the camera was pointed horizontal.
No, I'm saying a crop. I'm saying a crop right now. I will never blame anyone for not shooting vertically. I'll be the first to say that.
I think we can take it out. But we should start thinking, Carlos, about now about number 1, number 2, number 3. I think, even though I like the picture a lot, the American flag, it reminds me so much of the light at the Los Angeles Olympics in 1984.
Okay.
Beautiful, light, everything. It's just not, I think, quite a strong enough moment. I mean, it's a nice moment, but it's not, I don't think as strong as what you would expect out of a reaction picture.
I would agree with that. It's beautiful light, and the colors are awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Clean background. I mean, like that's.
Yeah.
You're right. Kodak would have put that out on magazine.
Okay.
Get the rights.
All right, you guys are getting close now.
It's tough. All the last two are really strong for me, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, I would really love to see that Matador picture story, just because it fascinates me personally.
Yeah.
And
Me too.
in terms of like the pictures that are out there, and of course, I always wonder if you're being prejudicial because it's the only black and white picture in that group, and sometimes your eye tends to go to that because of that. But I don't think so. I think it's just really I mean, like, I'd love to see the picture story. I think it's right there, though. I mean, gotta be about as good as anything else we've got.
Yeah, and you bring up the good point. I mean, for people that are listening about the black and white thing, and people go back and forth about it stuff, and it seems like a lot of times black and white pictures kind of in contests seem to do very well. But it's not just that. I mean, this is a nice image. I haven't seen a Matador photo like this.
Yeah,
before.
absolutely.
And that's
good.
So that's really nice too.
Nice moment.
For sure.
Everything about it.
Yeah.
This is near as perfection as you could get.
That's pretty nice.
I mean, exposure and light and lines and oh my gosh, beautiful.
Yeah, and that's if you've ever had to do bobsled, it's like it's difficult enough as it is, much less to try to compose something and hope it comes out right. Yeah, that's a really nice effort.
I would love to know what bobsled track has that kind of light. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Let's see. It was in Germany. Oh wait, no, Switzerland. St. Moritz.
Yeah.
St. Moritz.
Okay. Yeah, that's not Salt Lake.
No.
No.
Can we see a caption of the soccer player hugging the trophy?
Yeah. Significant event.
It is, and I mean, hanging out really late after all this madness. I mean, I don't know. Was this an hour after the game? Was this, I mean, like, there's no one on the field anymore, so this is probably some time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that helps. And you take the caption off now, Pat. You can see the whole composition. Yeah, that. Yeah, I think that works pretty well.
Yeah, it's a nice picture for sure. I think that, and not to compare soccer, but like I think that soccer picture is stronger than the other soccer picture.
I agree. This is a better picture than the one we just qualified earlier. Cleaner, much cleaner. I might have tried to, in the crop as you're talking about, Carlos, I might have turned that into a vertical.
Yeah.
That white
wall,
that white wall comes a little bit distracting.
Yeah.
And really what's over here that helps you know more about what's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like nothing.
But then again, another thing too is like, you never consider this because, I worked in magazines for most of my career and they were vertical magazines. Everything is horizontal. Every website, people are shooting for square format all the time. And that's not fair to say, but I guess you could recrop it for contest. But, that's a very, very minor complaint about a very nice picture.
Oh, we're being nitpicky here. All these pictures are very nice. So yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I do think now that we're getting down to, what do we get down to 6? We got to get rid of 2. I think I'm going to take the picture in green back out again.
Okay.
Carlos,
you good with that, Carlos?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I like it a lot though, but yeah.
I do too. I hate to see it go. It's really, the other thing too is like, it's not so obvious, like that took some thought to, coming up with a different look at something like that. I would like it regardless of what event it was.
Right, because someone said, "Hey, you go shoot ski jumping today," and you come back with that photo, and you're like, "Wow, that's actually pretty."
Yeah, nice. Exactly. And you wouldn't have to go up that hill and actually kill yourself to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I could. So I could probably lose the soccer jubilation photo.
I think so. I think that between, to me, between the soccer jubilation photo and the Mardi Gras picture, and I think the Mardi Gras picture wins out.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. So you just have to place them now.
Oh, I think my time's up. Sorry.
Don't leave me hanging.
Okay. Well, let me just throw this out there and see what you guys think. So first to fourth, right to left.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can go for that. What do you think, Damien? So basically
I'm thinking
four.
that's probably what I was thinking. Definitely the first two to me are definitely the two on the right. I mean, there's no question in my mind about that. And then it's just a question about whether Mardi Gras or Trophy are, three in honorable mention or.
Damien, do you see the Matador as the best of all of them? Or is this one?
Yeah, I think I do. I thought, although this is pretty good, that graphic picture of the bobsled is pretty good. But again, just a sports feature, right? What I think
sports feature.
I kind of agree with Carlos. I think the Matador picture is the best picture out there.
Okay, so we're going to say first.
Yeah.
And that's great. And then this is. It seems like it's pretty clear. This is 2, isn't it?
Yep.
Yes, I would agree.
Okay. All right. And
yeah, here I could go either way here and be happy. So if you want to fight for third for the wrestling, I'll listen.
I'll fight you, but just like I'm in Boston and you're in Minneapolis, probably won't work that well. Here's my. I would have vote for the trophy, and here's why. I think the wide angle. There's a lot of lines in that other picture that are bothering me a bit, and I think this picture is cleaner. There's a lot of nice information in this picture, but that door frame's going sideways, and a lot of lines going around. I think I would take it down, below the other picture for me.
Okay. So third,
yeah.
And HM.
I really like that picture, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we all did.
That Gary Winograd feel to it. It's like you don't see much anymore at all. Nice.
And this is a really strong category. So like to all the photographers, this is really nice. I think it's well done. There's some nice pictures in here. I don't know if this is going to hold up against the top candidates for me. What do you think, Damien?
I think it's in.
Okay.
I really like the pictures in it. I think the photographer. I mean, again, I would love to edit it a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
But there's some pretty good photographs in here.
There are. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
This is a yes for me.
Okay. Can do that. I like the last frame a lot.
This is no for me.
Yeah, it's a no for me too. But a good way to show, like what the ballpark is like on that day.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Storytelling was there.
Okay.
Carlos?
This is a no for me, but I like what the photographer was doing. Like they really worked it. I think they tried a lot of different angles and try to see it a lot of different ways.
Yeah, it's a no for me too. I just, same sentiment you have. Some nice pictures in here, but in terms of like pulling together as a story, maybe not quite as much.
They definitely picked the right frame for
Yeah, they did.
sports action.
Yeah, this
It
is
is.
not a story. This is just a collection of photographs, and so the
Yeah.
sequence doesn't make a story.
Agreed.
Okay, so we have 11 stories left.
Yeah, can flip through them pretty quick for me,
Yeah.
right, Carlos?
Yeah, for me too.
Wait, the singles or the stories?
No,
Just the whole story,
yeah, just
Okay.
the whole story for me
just so
too.
we can refresh and figure out where we
Yep.
are again.
Yep.
Ooh, it's not been easy, is it?
No. Well, just at a glance, I think that these are all good. I don't know if Pigeons is going to hold up.
Yeah, I would go along with that. I don't know if the Kansas City Chief thing is going to hold up either.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
Um,
We can lose Mahomes, and we can.
I think this set of pictures on the whatever it is, the sand racing, whatever it is, we need to hold on to that for a while.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. It's just done very well.
Let me find that one. Sorry. This one. Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think the pigeon thing has to go.
Yeah.
There's some nice frames in there though, for sure.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I like the effort a lot.
Yeah, I want to see this when we get a few more pulled down. We haven't really looked at this in depth.
No.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, really nice.
Mm. Put the whole thing up there, Pat. I'll just make a comment about a couple things.
This one?
Yeah, this Olympic one or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
This, you see pictures in here that did not work as sports features that work well in a story. The Switzerland picture on the end of the second row, the across to the extreme skier in the top right, first frame to the right on that side. Again, in a story, those all kind of work. And as an individual, sometimes they don't. Same way with the figure skating picture with the motion. As a part of the story, that worked pretty well. These pictures all go together nicely to give you a real sense of what this Olympic event was.
Yep.
Agreed. And then just the choice of how the photographer decided to crop. I mean, we were saying like some images earlier would really help with like a vertical crop, and so the figure skater obviously that works out pretty well as a vertical there, and the photographer
Mm-hmm.
shows
Yep.
kind of crop every photo the way it needed to be cropped, which is helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, we can go on.
I'm not super high on this one.
Yeah, I agree. There's some nice pictures in here, but I think there's a lot of stuff that's stronger than this.
Yeah, the other thing too is like I don't know if you're sequencing when you're doing this digitally, it's supposed to be opener as the first picture and stuff, but like the first picture kind of doesn't work for me, and that's the first thing I see. Whereas there's some other pictures in here that I like quite a bit.
Yeah.
I like that
and
a lot.
shows that the photographer, is a thinking photographer and a pro and a vet. This trophy picture, that detail picture we just saw, the wall, the scoreboard in the background, just like it's got somebody that obviously knows what they're doing. But I don't know that it comes together as a story, and that may have more to do with this convoluted story idea that we have because of the COVID, stuff, and that's hard. It seems to me to be really hard to portray.
Right, and this was maybe one of the first tournaments or something, and so like the photographer was limited to where they could have gone, probably.
Yeah,
like,
I'm sure.
Restrictions we don't even know about, and it's such a pain everywhere. So
yeah, exactly.
I think knowing the limitations and all that stuff is a good way to show an event like that and getting around and stuff. So I like the last frame a lot. I think usually that 18th. That 18th green at the end of a tournament does not look like that.
Right.
Yeah. It's usually you're crawling over people to get to where you need to go. Right. I think this is out.
Okay. So we're down to 7, I believe.
Okay.
That's right. Oops. Yeah, it should be. I think it's the server being slow again. Sorry.
That's right.
No, it just doesn't. Okay. So I'm just going to flick through the stories real quick.
Yeah.
Yep. Can we see these? I haven't seen these up.
Oh, can I see this one? Yeah, let's see the whole thing.
All the holy cards. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
I feel like we're in the 60s here, right?
I was gonna say, that looked like the shot back in the day. Look at that light there, man. Jeez.
Yeah.
And the range, man. Jeez.
Yep. You can use a telephoto lens too. Ouch. This really does look like 1955 or something.
Oh, for 100%. Yeah, this is definitely.
Except for this with the electric outlet.
Eugene Smith working.
I was gonna say Eugene Smith, right? For the war.
Yeah, boy, that's really strong.
Yeah, that's really strong. I like
it. Picture story is better than the individual. That's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's hard to do because this is a hell of a picture.
Yeah, for sure. That frame. Can you go down the second row, first frame?
Oh, sorry.
Second row. Yeah, I just want to look at that one.
Yeah. Amazing.
That's a
this
nice.
This is like the prayer they do before they do the thing, right?
Yeah, I just love. I mean, look at the light.
There's one phone. There's like one phone there.
Okay, good eye. I didn't see.
At American events, there'd be 50 phones, 60 phones in this picture.
Yeah, I think it's just crazy how he's getting that light on the left side of his face, but the crowd on the right is getting lit. It's like it's reflecting off of something there. That's nice. All right, thanks.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah,
that's a nice frame.
Okay. I'm not sure if I was going which. Did I already go that way?
I think let's go down.
we've seen that. Yeah, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is done well.
This is done well, exactly. But I don't know. I have to stay for now. Just flip down to the next one, Pat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this has one of my favorite pictures that I've seen, and that's the behind the scenes at the Opera House or wherever they're.
Yeah, that's a really nice frame.
Really nice picture, and I love the inside access, that they've got on the story too.
Yeah. I also like the featuring a dancer too. I mean, like the athleticism involved in what they do is so unappreciated. I think that it's cool to kind of see what what it takes to do this, because obviously it's
photographer's got you can tell it's a complete pro. I mean, they the detail shots are nice, and all that stuff. I'm just not quite sure that it's going to be strong enough, because there's a couple entries that are really, really strong.
I agree with you. But there's some really nice frames in here. I think well done, like very well done. So kudos to the photographer here.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is a really nice essay. It's like, hey, go out and show what athletes are doing now in COVID times. I mean, I think this was hard probably to pull off, just because everyone, I think, initially was probably so scared.
I think you're restricted by location from doing a lot of this stuff, but it looks like every picture stops at 24 to 70.
Yeah.
And that could spice things up a little bit if you use a little more lens selection. There's some opportunity to do it too. I'm looking at that weightlifting picture in the doorway.
Yeah.
Just stacking that a little bit would have given you one picture that's a little bit different. They're all kind of the same focal length and distance.
This is so loose too here.
Yeah. But then also too, like, the photographer was probably specifically told to stay back, to get clearance to shoot these things.
Probably right.
All this stuff, guys. Like, the thing is, like, with this COVID stuff, all bets are off about the photographer trying to think things through and stuff, because you just don't know. It's just not, it can change not even by the day, but by the hour.
Yeah, for sure. But I know initially when this went down, like, it was your days of getting up in someone's face with a 20 are long gone. So
good luck with that, right?
Right.
But regardless, I think this is out.
I agree, this is out. Although I will say that this is done really well. A nice essay showing what athletes are doing during this time. So,
and also the photographer's thinking all the way through it. I mean, you can tell what pictures are all well thought out.
For sure, all well done. Yeah.
So we have to delete two more. Did not place two more stories.
Well, I want to see them all run through again, Pat. Like,
can we do that?
All these individuals, you mean?
No, not individually, just the whole entry, just to refresh my memory a little bit more.
Okay, so this is the first one.
Bodybuilding.
Yeah.
Second one.
There's two Olympic ones. This is one of them, and then there's one more that has a couple singles that we've seen already.
Yeah. Both well done.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking this and the bodybuilders could probably go for me. There's nice frames in all of them, but I think there's probably stronger stuff. Dave, what are you thinking?
I got to go back and see them again. It's hard for me to keep everything quite straight. I think the horses are what I'm looking to get rid of next. But there's some really nice pictures in there.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, anything that's made it to this point is pretty nice.
Could you scroll through like just one after the other?
Of these? Sorry.
No, not the individuals. The whole thing.
Yep. So, You
mean, I just don't know how many are we at now? 6 or 5? Where are we at?
We're at 5.
Okay.
And we have.
So we got to eliminate one.
We got to eliminate one more, and then we have to place them.
Okay.
So here's the first story.
Yeah. Okay.
Second story.
Mm-hmm.
Third story.
Mm-hmm.
Fourth story. Fifth story.
So it looks to me as if we're looking at bodybuilders, sand racing, and the horse dressage or whatever that horse event was.
Yeah.
And what, 2 out of those 3 have to go? Is that right?
Only one has to go from what we're seeing right now.
I think he eliminated the horses. Do you want to bring that back for now, Damien?
No. I think that would be the one I would go get rid of next. I wanted to bring it back in because I wasn't sure how many prizes we had left.
Okay.
So if horses are out, then are we
just one more from being able to place them.
So it's either bodybuilder then or the sand racing, right?
Yeah. Or can we see those Olympic ones again?
Or maybe one of the 2 Olympic ones.
Yeah, and again, we shouldn't penalize the other photographer for not doing whatever.
Right.
So there's 2. This is the first one.
Yep.
This is the second one.
I want to combine them.
Yeah.
Good seeing them both parts. I mean,
Can you go back to the other one just a second?
Which one is stronger to you, Damien?
Well, they're both very good. They're both solid,
Yeah.
Really
For
sure. First I thought it was the other one. They had the pictures we'd seen before.
Yeah.
Maybe not though. Go back to the other one, Pat.
Can we look at all these frames large, please?
Yeah, just the way this all goes together. I think the both the Olympic ones have to stay in with the Matador for the placing, and then the honorable mention becomes, I guess, bodybuilders, right? Or no, sand racing. And I think sand racing holds up better than bodybuilders just because bodybuilders is a little washed down, a little watered down. There's several pictures in there that don't need to be in there, and are maybe not quite as storytelling as they need to be.
I agree. This could have been helped out with an edit for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's some really nice frames though.
There are.
Yes.
That first frame, that fourth frame. Yeah.
Okay. So
Can you go to the bodybuilding thing, Pat, just for a second?
I already deleted it, so I have to go back.
Oh, okay. No problem.
You sure?
No problem.
Okay. Sorry
No problem.
that. I didn't delete it. It just didn't play. Sorry.
Yep.
Shouldn't say that.
To whoever the photographer was, there's some really nice frames in there for sure.
Yeah, the thing that Carlos, what I was going to point out, if in a critique kind of manner, is that again, the wide angle stuff, you got a lot of crooked doorways and walls that aren't quite straight and stuff,
Right.
and it's like that's the difference between shooting the picture at eye level and bending down and getting 3 feet off the floor. It's like there's some things in there that hurt that story for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we agree that the Matador is one for?
Yes.
Yeah. That's okay. We can.
Photojournalism like in the good old days. Very nice.
Yeah, no kidding,
This is
man.
so retro. It's fun.
Yeah, exactly.
And then did you say the Olympics are 2 and 3? I couldn't remember.
I think so, right, Carlos?
Oh, can I see what's fourth place
So
again?
which is
What's
it would be it would be this one. Sand racing,
Okay, yeah.
right?
Sand racing.
Yeah, I think we could say this is HM.
Okay. And so we have to figure out which is 2 and which is 3 of these 2 stories.
You know what though? Honestly, does this? Well, hang on a second. Can we look at the? I'm sorry. Can we look at the sand race again?
Yep.
Sure.
I don't know. I mean, can this fight for third place?
Like, look at check out the third picture on the first row. It's like that's awesome. You know, it's got just cars
Mhm.
going off in the background, like it's totally
guys having
slice of life.
tea
They're
and
having their like tea. Maybe we didn't give this enough of a look the first time through.
Yeah.
You know, that's really graphic there, really interesting. This picture I don't like. I don't care for that picture.
Yeah.
But it's like that's a trifle. This is that's nice there too.
Yeah.
Like this was the other picture that I thought,
Yeah.
I thought that, it's hard to tell what the relationship to the story is in that picture.
Well, they're washing clothes here. That's what's happening.
Yeah, I think somebody was injured there. Yeah, they were getting them out.
I like that picture a lot.
Yeah, this is really well done. This is really well done.
That's nice too. Yeah. And that too.
Yeah.
I mean, so what do you think that for third?
Well, I don't know. I'm just saying, do we consider it for that? I mean, is it is it?
Well, here's how I see it. I see it Matador, and then the Olympics. I think when you finally go back and decided, it's the one that we had seen some earlier pictures from.
Yeah.
And then the sand racing.
Okay, so
this one.
I think so. Scroll down. I mean, like you have the really nice picture on the far right. It fits really nicely. The graphic on the skiers and the slow shutter speed on the other. I think it's really nice. I'd take a look at the other one again. Let's see, because there's a couple things again, like where I think the photographer finishes really strong here. Like a graphic picture, really nice action picture, a good scene setter for the end of the day, and a championship picture. But look on the second row, the third frame. That picture just doesn't get it for me. I know you probably want to show you're in the mountains, but that picture I think hurts some really nice photography that's already been done. Yeah. But it's really close. Same way with the buildings picture of first row, second frame. Gets a little. It needs a little more compression, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, the background out of focus more.
Background's out of focus.
Oh, yeah.
You get the sense of the place, but just kind of make it more focused on what's down.
Yeah, but I mean, it's really nice. There's some really nice pictures in here that photographer sees really well. I mean, it's hard to pick between the two of them for me. I mean, I think the other one though.
Can I see the other one again?
Yeah, they both have a lot of good stuff in them. I don't know. This is a tough one.
It is. I mean, I don't know if we go like picture for picture kind of thing, but like,
I think this is a stronger story than the other one.
This one.
Yeah, I think it's not just the style of the photographer and the way they handle light. Everything is just exactly what it should be. Like it's beautiful, and it's good scene, and there's like really good scene. Like a lot of people would have never even shot that,
Yeah.
I think this is very strong.
That was my gut feeling. This is second place.
This is a scene setter if I ever saw one.
Yeah,
that worked. Like where the other one didn't,
Yeah. Yeah, I could live with that.
Okay.
So is this two?
Sure, Carl. Sure. I don't want to. I feel like I'm pushing, little stuff that maybe not,
No,
I think it's between those two stories, the two Olympic stories for second and third.
Yeah, honestly, I mean they're all so strong. I'm comfortable with any placement of these second through fourth. Like honestly, I think you could almost make an argument to interchange any of them.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the winner was pretty clear, but I think after that, I think
now do we want to look at third and honorable mention changing places or anything like that? Or are you good with this? Because it would be this story competing with that.
Well, I'll say this. I mean, Damon, you pulled this back in, and I like it. So I mean, I could, like I said, I could be persuaded to go up with it. But if you're happy with what it's at, that's cool too.
Yeah, I still think this is an honorable mention, and it's for the same reasons we've been talking about on a lot of this stuff. A few pictures out would have helped the overall, I think. Like I don't know why we need to see the people washing their clothes and
the two overheads probably. I mean, like just the one shadow one would have been enough, I think.
Exactly. But I mean, that for that reason, I would maybe take that to maybe the honorable mention.
Okay, that's cool. I'm okay with that.
Excellent.
Nice work, photographers.
Just if you don't mind, just kind of tell people who you are, what you do, and we'll end this thing.
Go ahead, Carlos.
Oh, I'm Carlos Gonzalez. I'm a photographer at the Star Tribune in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Newspaper, just kind of do a little bit of everything with some sports mixed in.
So I'm Damian Strohmeyer. I'm a recovering photographer based in Boston, Massachusetts, and I was a longtime Sports Illustrated photographer and worked in newspapers before that in Denver, Colorado, and Topeka, Kansas.
Thank you all so much. I really appreciate your help on this. It was I'm glad we did the sports picture story. It just worked great, and we got to see the Matador.
Yeah.
And
was worth it.
Was there any question when you saw that story the first time that it wasn't going to be first place?
No. I mean, you have to see the picture, but yeah, it was pretty good
done
from the start.
When I saw the whole story, I was done. I was like,
yeah, when we went through the frames, it was like, okay, that's pretty nice.
Yeah. Well, cool. Thank you guys so much. I really, really appreciate your help.
Hey, Patrick, thanks for all the work you do on this. I know it's a big
Yeah,
effort.
well, I'm learning. Last night was my first night. Tonight's a little easier.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right, Phil.
This is my first year at the seminar. I kept hearing about it, but finally came out when I heard about the great lineup that they were having. So I really wanted to see everyone's work, hear their stories, and just learn more about the industry.
For me, the most important thing on this seminar, it's the opportunity to do network with other folks that are interested in the same things or same subjects that I am.
I was really interested to meet people and to hear from great photojournalists from all around the world who've traveled all around the world to get inspired and learn from them. It's been amazing. It's been very inspiring, very informative, and a little intimidating. Is that fair to say? You realize how much more there is to go. Right? You think you're doing good, but then once you come to one of these things, you realize that there's a whole nother world out there with so much more to learn.
I really like the fact that these people put so much into their work and they have so much history behind what they're taking a picture of, and they have a message with what they're trying to get across to whoever's looking at their picture. And I think it's really good that through photojournalism and through the things that they're doing, they're making a difference.
Let's take a shot and see how right you were.
But coming to these things, like, you get introduced to new people and you're like surrounded by all this talent and like people so passionate about, visual journalism and things like that. So it's been a lot of fun and eye-opening.
This is my perception. He's thinking about this not just as President of the United States, but as a fellow parent.
Atlanta Photojournalism Seminar meant so much to me because this is where I started learning and growing. I never missed any workshop for, I'll say, probably a decade or 11. I attended 11. This is my 12th one as a speaker. People giving a talk on a hands-on experience, it means more than you just reading a book. It's a spark. Everybody needs a spark. No matter how good you are or how you're trying to learn or you're professional, but we all need sparks. And Atlanta Photojournalism Seminar will give you a spark.
Good evening, and welcome to tonight's session, Adjusting Academic Priorities. My name is Mickey Harris, and I'm here with Mark Johnson, and we both are professors in Georgia. Mark is at the University of Georgia, and I'm at Morehouse College. We're here to talk about this shift in this year of 2020, what happened in March as professors, and what we want you to think about as professors who are in the audience, some scholars, some journalists, a whole group of people are here, but we're going to be talking about this academic space and what is taking place. So, twin pandemics hit our lives in 2020 as COVID-19 and racial injustice have shifted the ways that many of us live and learn. We teach online, also in hybrid, some are actually in person, and we work to build a sense of community in the learning spaces where we work, no matter where we're working. This discussion tonight discusses the holistic environment where faculty can approach a strengths-based perspective in engaging students, collaborating with faculty members, and also maintaining balance in our own lives as we value what we value as educators. So while we're here, when we are actually in person at a conference, the faculty members, a number bring students to the conference, and we're very busy with our students. And so discussion was had where we said we want a space where we can build our network, get to know one another. So I encourage those of you who are faculty members to put a message online so we see who you are, where you're affiliated, and we can connect and expand this network beyond our in-person sessions or even beyond tonight, but throughout the year. I want to make sure that people feel connected and don't feel as if they're working in isolation, because that oftentimes can be the case. There is a network of people throughout the conference, throughout this seminar, but also throughout this photojournalism world that you can tap into. So I'm going to be speaking. Mark is going to be speaking. I'm also going to be looking at the Q&A over to the side, so going to be DJing here tonight. But Mark is going to, after we do introductions, Mark is going to kick it off, and I may ask some questions of him while he's talking. I will share, and he may ask me some questions while we're talking, but we're going to open it up so the questions that you do put in the Q&A we'll be able to address in this session. So please, any response, reactions, questions you have, we really would enjoy seeing them. I'm going to start with introducing Mark. Mark Johnson is a journalism professor at the University of Georgia, where he teaches photojournalism, multimedia journalism, video journalism, and graphic design courses. He also serves as the college's chief technology officer. Many of us know Mark as a faculty member at the Poynter Institute, where he teaches pedagogy in ways that allow faculty members to reach student needs. When I first met Mark, it was actually after my first year of teaching at Morehouse, and I was teaching a new media class where anything that was non-print was in my course. And I asked Mark, how do I do this? How do I teach reporting and sourcing and also production, podcasting, photo, video, SEO? And, Mark was very calm and witty and helpful in that he said, you can't do it all in one course, but here's some resources. And what Mark is known as is that person that's able to give resources and share his research to students, to faculty members, not only at the University of Georgia, but those at Poynter and those who reach out to him or are in the network. So it's really a treat to be able to have him here tonight and be able to talk about the difference, like what's happened in this year, because we rely on Mark for that work that he does with the tutorials that he creates and the website that he constantly updates. But now there's some changes that have happened in 2020. So we want to hear about that. For those of you that don't know, Mark is a Syracuse grad. He studied photojournalism in undergrad and photography in grad school at the S.I. Newhouse School of Public Communication. His work as a photojournalist has been in the editorial space, where he's worked for the AP, AFP, Lawrence Eagle Tribune, Metro West Daily News. And he's also been a photo editor, where he worked at the Utica Observer Dispatch and was director of photography for School Sports Magazine and schoolsports.com. Mark is a 4-time Sports Car Club of America Road Rally Divisional Champion. He has served in the SCCA's National Road Rally Board and is director of the SCCA's Atlanta Region Road Rally Program. And this enthusiasm that he has for motorsports and photojournalism gets channeled into some of the work he does with students, where he conducts workshops, orchestrates motorsports photojournalism workshops, also conducts workshops in rural Georgia, and also at the Georgia National Fair. So, Mark, I'm so glad you're here. I'm really excited for everyone to hear what you're going to be talking about, because you have the ability to talk about this approach to teaching in a time that requires all of us to shift in many ways. And so as people have questions of Mark, please put them in the Q&A. But Mark, I'd like for you to introduce, I would like for you to just start off with saying, what has worked well for you? What's gone well? What's gone right for you in this year of 2020 with this shift?
Sure. Well, first of all, I want to thank you, Mickey, for bringing me on board for this. It's a great honor. The Atlanta Photojournalism Seminar is near and dear to my heart. When I came to Georgia 15 years ago, first of all, I only expected to be at UGA for 1 year, and I knew nobody in the Southeast, except for a couple of photographers that I had hired when I was an editor for School Sports Magazine. And that first fall that I was here in 2005, I went to the seminar and just started meeting all of these photojournalists from around the state, as well as from around the Southeast. And they became this wonderful resource. So as we have built up the photojournalism program here over the last 15 years, an awful lot of that is due to a lot of the folks who I met at the seminar. And so I want to thank everybody on the board of the seminar for continuing the faith and continuing to build this great program. I bring students every year. They come back and afterwards we do a debrief, and they just rave about the people they meet in the hallways, the sessions that they get to see. It's just been this wonderful, wonderful resource. So yeah, you asked about wins, and it'd be really easy to say that the wins are few and far between. But there's been a couple of places where I think my students have really sort of embraced this challenge. I think all of us as photojournalism educators, as journalism educators, talk about the continually changing media landscape and how the environment that I came up in the 1980s and the 1990s just doesn't exist anymore. So the career paths are different. The way we work is different. The technology is different. The way we approach storytelling is different. The way we think about our audience is different. And this was a wonderful way to sort of get all of those ideas across to the students very, very quickly, because everything that we had ever talked about in the way that we do documentary work, of being close to people, getting to know them really well, spending time with them, all of these became safety hazards. And so we really had to start thinking about everything from both the methodology of how we approach storytelling to the way we handle it technically. My students did struggle with a lot of different things, but like you said, we want to talk about wins. So I think one of the first things I learned is that if we were going to be online, so as with everybody else in mid-March, we made a rapid pivot from being fully in person to fully online. And at the University of Georgia, we had a little bit of whiplash on a Thursday in mid-March, where at 12 noon, we were told we were coming back from spring break and everything was fine. And 4 hours later, we were told, no, we're not coming back from spring break. We're going to take a week off, and then we're going to take 3 weeks off and then come back fully online. So we had a pretty good level of whiplash. Having done some online teaching and building modules over the years to sort of flipped classrooms, this wasn't a technological challenge for me, but I knew that the idea of listening to me prattle on for 3 hours a week on a recorded video lecture just wasn't going to work. So one of the first things I did is I started reaching out to alums of our program saying, hey, can you come in and spend 30 minutes with the students to talk about business practices? Can you spend 30 minutes talking about marketing? Can you spend 30 minutes talking about social media? And it was a wonderful way for me to reach out and start re-engaging my alumni base. You know, we've got 15 years worth of producing students that went through my classes. And at the University of Georgia, we've got, 30, 40, 50 years worth of photojournalism students, photojournalism graduates. And every single person that I reached out to said yes. And so we got really, really lucky in sort of building this community once again, because at the end of these sessions, after they do a short presentation, we do a Q&A with the students, and the students were constantly saying, hey, can I have can I have this person's email address? Can I have their phone number? I want to follow up with this. And it really helped connect the history of the program to the current students. This fall, one of the challenges that I was facing is, as you mentioned, we do workshops. We do one every semester. The spring is our Woodall Weekend Workshop. It's a 3-day immersive program. In the fall, for the last 7 years, we've done one at the Georgia National Fair, where the students think that they're going to get to have a fun day at the carnival. And then they realize we're going to be there for 16 hours. It's usually 95 degrees, and they're baking out in the mid-Georgia sun all day long. And they're, we've worked with Georgia Public Broadcasting and the Macon Telegraph to publish that work. And those workshops are important because that's when I bring in all of these coaches from around the country, and the students get to get feedback from somebody else on the program, on the work that they're doing. And we lost the spring workshop and we lost the fall workshop. So this fall, we took one of our stories, one of our assignments on the election, and I basically reached out to about a dozen of the coaches who were regulars. Some of them are alumni, some of them are photojournalists working in the Southeast, some of them are folks that we brought in from around the country and said, hey, would you do some online mentoring? Basically spend 2 or 3 hours over the next month working with these students. And the students struggled an awful lot with those election stories. Every student was assigned a race that they had to cover, so there were a couple of candidates they needed to go out and document and then find the issues they were talking about. We had a lot of candidates that either ghosted them and didn't respond at all. We had some candidates that said, I'm more than happy to talk to you on the phone, but I'm not actually campaigning. But then we had some that really were out there. But the coaches were wonderful in the way that they spent the time and kept giving me feedback. And at the end of it, most of the students ended up with a really, really strong package of some sort. We did end up with a situation where a couple of them, we were a week out from the deadline for this, and they hadn't been able to photograph anything or anyone. And so we pivoted and came up with a new assignment that we called Why I Vote. And each of them went out and found a bunch of first-time voters, folks who had been eligible to vote in previous elections, but registered just for the 2020 campaign. And we ended up with about a dozen and a half or 20 of these 30 to 45 second interviews and portraits of people talking about why it was important for them to vote for the first time in 2020. So I think those were sort of the two big ones, was engaging the alumni and keeping the mentoring that I think is so critical to our program. Up until a year ago, I was the only person here that was teaching photojournalism, aside from bringing in a couple of adjuncts whenever we had a budget to do so. A year ago, we added a second photojournalism faculty member. Kaiser Lowe joined us. We've got a doc student here now who's studying photojournalism, and Andrea Briscoe. So there's the three of us that are in the building, but it's still important for us to bring in all of these other voices. I think one of the other wins that's also been a big challenge has been keeping the students engaged, because they're not always sitting in the room. And the online sessions are not always something where they feel completely vested in the process sometimes. So we spent a lot of time at the beginning of every session, whether it was in person this semester or online last semester, just making sure that they were okay and sort of doing this mental health check-in and asking them what they were experiencing, what were they seeing that was different, how are their friends and families reacting to what's going on, and just really sort of staying engaged that way, which I suspect is
Mark,
similar to what you've been doing. Yeah.
So I was going to ask you, with those sessions, or when you're just engaging students, do they just sign up? Do you make it mandatory, or is it really just when they need to talk?
So I'm hoping that the registrar and provost for the university aren't watching tonight. In my advanced classes, there was a mistake made in scheduling years before I got here that I've never fixed. So my classes are 3 credit hour classes, and my advanced class has 6 hours worth of classroom time booked a week. It's a holdover. It should really only be 3 hours, but it's been 6 hours since I came here, and I've never asked them to fix it because it gives me a lot of flexibility that, we can run for 3 hours in one day and go real short the next day. But with these online sessions this semester, I still have that 3 hour time block. So every class, the first question I ask is, how's everybody doing? And how's everybody around you doing? And that gives them this opportunity to talk. We joke about the photojournalism program being a real family here down in the photo cave, which is what we call our lab downstairs. And that's something that I think is really true, because there's nobody else in our program that's going through the same experience as the 20 kids that are in those advanced photojournalism classes every semester. And I often joke with them at the beginning of a semester, they can either bond with me or against me, and I don't care which of those two it is, as long as they bond. And for 15 years, they really have. They have I am told, a very robust GroupMe chat session. And in the past, they've created Facebook groups to mock me and then let me join the Facebook group at the end of the semester. But I think all of us, one of the things we really want to do is we want to build that community. Going back to what I said a couple of minutes ago about the Atlanta seminar, one of the great things about it is that it's that sense of community. And that sense of community, I think, is critical for us as faculty members to continue building in our classes. And the way we do that is we say we're not always teachers. Sometimes we're counselors. Sometimes we're just friends. Sometimes we're just that ear that they can bend for a little bit about whatever issues they're having. And they really like to complain about my colleagues, which I find very, very entertaining. So what's the experience been like for you at Morehouse? I mean, what was your students' reaction in the spring?
Oh, for us, the first thing was, what do you have? What do you need? So just making sure students had computers. So for my class, where we do production, it was immediately, do you have a computer? Do you have Adobe? How do we get everything set up? And that was the very first week. The other classes I teach where they're not in production, I found a number of students that were working with their phone and did not have computers. And so that was something we had to work on for fall, was making sure they had what they needed so that we weren't halfway through the semester just trying to get them in class. But what I did find was there were a number of students that wanted one-on-one sessions. So it was just time to talk about projects, but the first 45 minutes of our discussion was about life. It wasn't necessarily about the project. But what I found was trying to look at how do we incorporate projects and life together. In the past, I would say, okay, you cannot do a story on a relative. You can't do a story on a sorority sister or frat. That's off limits. You got to go to the stranger and get to know them. But in spring, I actually relaxed because I realized they had some really strong stories just telling their own and whoever was around them. And so that was really helpful to just do a shift, do an adjustment with respect to that.
Can I ask, so I did the same thing with my classes in the spring and to a slightly lesser extent this fall. Mm-hmm. One of the challenges that I faced that I'm still not sure I got right was sort of talking about those ethical boundaries. As with you, my students are not allowed to cover anyone that they know or any organizations that they have an association with. And that's a hard and fast rule. In the spring, when it wasn't safe for them to go out and cover anybody but the people they were living with, we had to sort of toss that one out. Did you find a good way to have that conversation with your students to say, this is a unique situation right now, and once we're clear of this is not going to be acceptable either in the industry or in later classes?
So the ethical discussion was about people producing, becoming producers, where the person that you're close with all of a sudden wants to have a say in what's going on. And so that was where the discussion was, especially for people who are doing stories on a parent or a grandparent, where I know my own experience trying to do stories on my parents, where they want to be my parent and say, no, you can't do that. I want to see that. And it just gets to the point where I say, okay, I'm not going to do that. But so we had those where you don't want to lose control and the ethical decisions you make about having access, upfront access, but how do you do that in a way that is not intrusive? And so that's where it started. But then it led to a conversation about who's telling our stories, because network news isn't coming into their homes to share their stories. And what a number of students were going through were stories that are of value. When we're 20 years from now saying, oh, remember when? Their stories are ones that I would want to read, to look at, to engage, more so than what's on the news. And so that was also a big part of the conversation, was the value at this time in being able to tell stories of people who are close to us or even our own stories. So that's where we were with that.
Yeah. For my students, I had a couple of them in the spring that really wrestled with this idea that they did not want to cover their own families because they, at some point in time, they took an ethics class or they heard it from all of my colleagues before they got to me that we don't do this, that this is completely unacceptable to photograph and document, people that you know too well. And so we had a lot of conversations about sort of the uniqueness of the situation that we were in. And the students, they ended up producing some pretty interesting photo essays about their lives. And some of them were straight documentary work about, changes in routines and the challenges of trying to get food safely and still maintain some semblance of sanity and faith. And one or two of them, came back to me and said, I can't document that. My family is not interested in that, but my personal experience, I want to try and do something with. And the closeness to art photography that we ended up with on a couple of them made me a little nervous. But I think in the end, it was therapeutic for some of those students to be able to find ways to express what it was that they're feeling through their photography, which is something that in my journalism classes we don't do. It's very much about connecting the people we're documenting to the people we're documenting them for. And I never wanted anybody to know who I was when I was a photographer, and that's a little bit of the sense that my students come away from our program with as well. So
Yeah,
can I
definitely.
ask how you handled some of the technology challenges? Because I think that's something that an awful lot of us did have to wrestle with.
Well, luckily Adobe did offer free licenses through the end of June. So it was a matter of getting online with each student and making sure they had the access they needed, because we have labs, and they only work in our labs in our library. Most don't have the Adobe suite on their laptops. And so the first thing was, luckily Adobe did that. And then there were student affairs that we were able to secure laptops for those students that just did not have them. And so that was a priority that was able to be handled in my class. I teach the one of maybe two production classes on campus. So there wasn't a high demand. And so that was able to be fulfilled. But it did lead me to thinking about technology requirements in the future for the program and how we're going to handle this moving forward, because in this semester, we've now had to pay for the Adobe licenses for students. And so now we're looking at moving forward, what do we do with respect to the technology? And then the other things, I did look at free stuff, so they're, on using Adobe Spark for packaging your portfolio or your stories, just also looking at some of those free ones, or Filmic Pro, downloading the free version on your mobile phone if you don't have access to the gear and everything that you really want to have access to. So I'm living and learning as I go through it, and I don't have answers for everything, but it's this adjustment and being able to be flexible with the adjustment, and also talking to students about the focus is the story. We can't put all of our focus and attention on this gear and these things. So how do we present the best stories with what we have? And that's where we've had to have the discussion. So
we were a little lucky in that the Department of Journalism moved to a bring your own technology program about 4 or 5 years ago when we redid our curriculum. So all of our students were already required to have laptops and have the Adobe suite installed and fully licensed, as well as having their own cameras for the students in the intro class. So we were in some ways oddly prepared for this sort of a shift, because for the Department of Journalism, we're not running computer labs anymore. It was something that we decided to sort of get out of the business of building 5 years ago. And we do have a program in place that if we have a student who can't afford the technology, we'll loan it to them for the semester. And that became a little bit more of an issue in the fall semester than it was last spring, because I think we did have some students who were borrowing stuff and they weren't going to be able to do that for an entire semester. And again, Adobe's decision to grant anybody that had a site license free access for their students was wonderful. And there were a lot of us that were crossing our fingers that was going to continue through the spring, but I can understand the Adobe position on not being able to do that. So
yeah. So I've been looking at this, the queue, and we have a question from Robert Heller from the University of Tennessee. And Robert wants to know, are there any assignments that you've had to throw out? And how have you replaced those?
You want to answer that one?
I feel like I threw so much out.
Yeah. I'd say, for the fall semester, I taught intro classes in our advanced photojournalism class, and Professor Lowe and Professor Briscoe, my colleagues here, all three of us were teaching sections of the intro class. And so we met, I don't know, 3-4 times over the summer, socially distanced on my back porch to try and figure out how in the world do we teach introduction to photojournalism, when we're only going to have half the kids in class and we got to stay 6 feet apart from them and they can't get near people. And so we went through all of the assignments that we normally used and threw out probably half of them. And that some of them, it kind of broke my heart because they were so critical to them learning lots of different things, particularly some of the early assignments. But we also took it as an opportunity to rebuild to build a bunch of new assignments. So for the first time ever, we had a picture editing assignment in my introductory class, because I know that out of the 60 students we have taking intro to photojournalism this semester, there's only 10 or 12 of them that are going to end up in the advanced class in the spring semester and next fall. But the rest of them are going to deal with images at some point in their careers, whether they're going to be hiring photographers or working with photographers or selecting images for a gallery. So what we did is we built a picture editing assignment around the elections. So they had to go find 15 images that they would use in a gallery and then sequence them and rewrite the cut lines. And so I broke my class up into 4 different groups and gave them basically 4 different audiences that they had to edit for. One group was editing for an audience here in Georgia, one was editing for an audience in Washington, D.C., one was a national audience, one was a more localized audience. So each of them had to go figure out what is it that audience needs to see from election day. And that was part of the challenge, is that all the images needed to be made on November 3rd. So that ended up being a really great assignment where the students had to go look at hundreds and hundreds of images and figure out, okay, well, which of these are, I've only got 15 slots, which of these images are going to help tell a story? The one that crushed us the most to give up is the second assignment we give our intro students, and it's called 36 Faces, and it's 36 headshots of people that they didn't know. So the students dread this one. There's stories that float around years before the kids even get into the intro photojournalism class about how much they hate this assignment. The first 12, they photograph at 55 millimeters, and they're just doing headshots. They're literally their mugshots. So they got a 55 millimeters from the top of the shoulders to just off their head. 4 of them they do in bright sun, 4 in shade, 4 indoors next to a window, so they get side lighting. The next 12, they have to do it between 30 and 35 millimeters. And then the next 12, they have to do it 18 millimeters. So they have to keep getting closer and closer and closer. And for every one of these people that they photograph, they have to get contact information and background information. So they're learning how their camera works. So they're practicing with focus and exposure. They're seeing the difference between focal lengths and how that affects distortion and compression. They're learning how to collect caption information. They're learning workflow. So there's like 27 different things that they learned in that one assignment, and we couldn't do it. We had to throw the entire thing out. So we replaced it with what we called a 3x3 assignment, where they were going to photograph a roommate or a family member and do one of each of the 9 types of photographs that we normally have in 36 Faces. And to give them a challenge on the caption, they had to ask 9 different questions about these folks' backgrounds and write that into the captions. Useful, but not anywhere near as strong as the previous assignment, because the last part of 36 Faces, and I'll give full credit to Andrea Briscoe, because she came up with this a couple of years ago when she was teaching the intro class. We used that as part of our diversity lesson. And what she did is, when the students came in, she had printed out a grid of 36 faces for each one and handed it back to them, and then gave them sort of all the ethnic breakdowns that you could have, how many, and had them count, how many white students do you have, how many African-American students, how many Hispanic students, how many, on down the line, and then calculate the percentage that you had there, and then gave them the university's breakdown to see how well they had reflected the university community, and talk about, so why are 35 of your 36 people white women? What does that say about who you're comfortable approaching or who you're not comfortable approaching? What's our responsibility? I mean, it was this great way that in week 3 or 4, we were talking about diversity, in who it is that we choose to document in our communities. And Andrea's lesson on that is just absolutely phenomenal. And we couldn't do that one either. So, but we incorporated a couple of other things. We had to throw out some of our portrait assignments. But we decided to do a remote portrait assignment where they had to be on FaceTime with somebody and have them walk around their house and get them to pose and prop their phone up and be able to then do a screen capture. And the image quality wasn't very good, but it forced them to have these discussions about light and background. And like I said, the technical quality was not great on these things. We still have some more challenges there. But the learning off of it was really, really interesting because they had to look at what they're seeing on the screen, explain what they're seeing on the screen to the person that's holding the phone someplace else, get them to make adjustments so that they could get a clean background and good light and a steady shot and all of these different things. So it forced them to start articulating the things that maybe they understood at an intellectual level, but not at a level that they could verbalize it yet. So, I mean, that assignment, terrible pictures, but great learning out of that one.
Yeah, I found that when you mentioned the photo editing, that has been something that I don't spend a lot of time on in the semesters where we're in person. But this semester, students have done really well. We've looked at a number of protests over time. And, I try to bring in tons of photos and they have to actually create the story, and so they're analyzing not just the composition and lighting, but how do you make this a story? And and they were able to learn just the structure of a visual story through that. And then some of them hadn't, these are students that were 3 years old when the September 11th 2001 hit. So a number of them, they didn't know about anti-apartheid movements, and there were so many different protests that have taken place that they were just too young to even see the photos of. A number of them are the age that Trayvon Martin would have been currently. And so for them, they were just preteens when he was first killed. And so photo editing has led to tremendous discussions on impact and even your role as the photographer, of the value and responsibility with what you capture when you can point your camera in any direction. So yeah, that's been really good for us.
I think one of the other things that it did was, because they weren't working with their own images, they had that distance from it. And because they weren't in a situation where they were trying to decide what to photograph and what to push out on social media right away, it forced them to be more contemplative and think about, okay, I'm going to open with this image that shows X. What's the next thing that the audience needs to see? And how do I get them to that? Can I go from a photograph of somebody standing in line to a candidate behind a podium, or do I need to put something, a transitional set of images in between, so that they can build that narrative arc and the flow from image to image to image? We also got the opportunity to talk about the idea that, going to a high school football game and posting 75 photos in a gallery is not necessarily storytelling. That's revenue generation for your company. That's what you're going to have to do by the half. But the next day, you probably want to go back and figure out, okay, what are the 10 or 12 story images that truly tell the story of that particular game? And of course, when we talk about that with football, sometimes they say, well, what if I only have 12 images that are in focus? And then we know we have to have a completely different discussion about what they're doing on Friday nights. So, yeah.
So I have a question about students coming together. I teach at Morehouse now, but I used to teach at University of Mississippi. And a challenge I had as a professor was when we were in the classroom, there was just students uncomfortable sitting next to, being in small groups with people who were different from them in any way. And so I used to have to assign small groups or say, okay, I need you to sit here, you to sit here, just to get people to work together. And when we did usually when we did workshops and off campus, that was when people came together. But just in the day-to-day classroom, I felt this forced effort. And so at Morehouse, it has shifted. Morehouse, I see, it's a historically Black college, but there's tremendous diversity in that, when it comes to intersectionality, there's so many intersections, and the students there, even if they're not in the same, you know, crew or circle, before the start of class, they're giving each other pound. There's this community effort, you know, of just talking before class starts, and then we launch class. So I've found that I've had to make sure I bring that sense of community online. But I imagine if I was teaching at University of Mississippi, I would be struggling to figure out how to bring students together, um, you know, as hard as it was to do in person, but online. Do you find that as a challenge, or do you have any successes with that building of community?
You know, it's really interesting. I go from teaching the intro students in the morning to teaching the advanced students in the afternoon. And the intro students, they don't necessarily know each other. They're not really sure where they fit in the class. And it takes a long time, even when we're in a fully in-person semester, for that class to kind of to gel. But one of the things that I do encourage the students to do is to go out when they can and work together. You know, to go do a photo walk downtown. And our NPPA student chapter for many years has, at the beginning of every semester, they come to me and they say, so when are the intro students going to be doing their nouns and verbs assignment, which is the first thing when we send them out, just to make 400 photographs of anything they want so that they can practice with their camera. And the NPPA student chapter will send out a message to all the intro students saying, hey, meet us at the Arch, just sort of the separation between campus and downtown, at 5 o'clock on Tuesday, and we'll go walk around downtown and we'll help. And so that starts building this sense of community, this idea that their education is their education, but they're surrounded by lots of other students who are going through the same experience. And that starts to build that sense of community. I think one of the things that I've spent more time doing this semester, and we talked about this a little bit already, is sort of that the opening of class, it's not, all right, let's launch right into this. It's, how are you doing? And, you know, we always talk about how do you interview somebody and how do you get folks to be comfortable with you being there with the camera. Well, instead of just talking about that, we're actually doing it in the classroom now. We're asking those questions. You know, sometimes they're a little silly. It's, you know, what was the best thing that you had to eat this week? What was the best piece of television, best thing you watched on television? The best documentary? What's the funniest thing that you saw happen on campus? You know, whatever it happens to be, just asking those questions and getting folks to start talking to each other in whatever way that you can is really important. And if you ask my students, they'll let you know that I'm perfectly fine with them mocking me, and I mock myself from time to time. So if I can get them to laugh at me, I don't care. That's as long as they're laughing, as long as they're engaged with the process. So
That's
when
good. That's good.
when I assigned the mentors for the election package, we came in and I sent an email out that introduced the students to their mentors. And one of the mentors is a Pulitzer Prize winner. And we came into class 2 days later, and I asked if everybody had, you know, reached out and made contact with their mentor. And one of the students said, "Why don't you like me?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Why in the world did you give me a Pulitzer Prize winner? I'm scared of her." And I was like, well, first of all, you should be scared of her because she's terrifying, but she's also a great photojournalist and editor, and you're going to learn a lot from her. And he just kept going on and on about how afraid he was of her. So we got a good laugh out of that whole situation. So
That's great.
Yeah.
So we have a question from Martin Smith Rodden from Ball State University. Martin wants to know, have either of us been able to manage doing sports assignments?
Sports was, sports was a huge part of our fall advanced photojournalism class. And not only did we not get to do a sports assignment, 4 years ago, my colleague Vicky Michaelis and I took students to Rio de Janeiro to cover the Paralympic Games, and we were actually scheduled to take 13 students to Tokyo in August to cover the Paralympic Games, and we lost that opportunity for our students. Although our intention is to go next year, as long as they hold them in 2021. Some of our high schools continued doing sports, some of them didn't. Some of them were very restrictive about where we could go and where we couldn't go. and they didn't start the season until late September here in Georgia for most of the athletics. So I took out the sports assignment, and this goes back to a little bit about what assignments we kept and what assignments we had to change that Rob asked a little while ago. I built a syllabus fully knowing that half of it I was going to throw away by the midpoint of the semester, and that's about what I ended up throwing out. So I had a sports assignment that was in there. I modified it 2 or 3 times and realized it just wasn't going to work. So we switched it to a bodies in motion assignment. So they had to go out and find a dancer, or a whole bunch of them went to the skate park that we have here in town so that they could go out and practice this idea of timing and action photography and composition and moments. And what I'm going to do is, for my students that are coming back in the spring semester, there'll be a sports documentary project that'll be in the spring class. It wasn't an ideal situation. Some of our sports are indoor sports here in the fall, and we can't do those. So winter sports of basketball, volleyball, things like that, those are right out. I'm not going to take the chance of putting the students into those environments. But there's enough spring outdoor sports, and I feel relatively confident that those will happen. But that's my solution for that. Do you have a sports assignment in your classes?
It's crazy. I teach in what's called the journalism and sports program, and I don't have a sports assignment. So no, not with this semester. But usually, our students will go and cover a Hawks game, NASCAR, but football, especially in season, and basketball. But we haven't discussed sports at all as it relates to the performance of sports. We've done some audio storytelling, so that's where I started because I wanted them to learn Adobe Audition, and I like starting the semester with that. So this semester we relied heavily on Audition and doing audio stories. So sports came into that, but not actually covering the action.
Yeah.
So
we have a sports program here. I've got 3 colleagues, Vicki Michaelis, Welch Suggs, and Carlo Finlay, and they all teach in our sports certificate program. And they did manage to take some of their reporting students out, and we had talked for a long time about, can we take some students to, the softball game or something like that. And, when we looked at having 10 or 12 of the sports media students there, and then trying to add in another 8 or 10 photojournalism students, it got to be a little nerve-wracking. And I think the coaches would have gotten a little nervous if 20 college students showed up at a high school softball game on a Tuesday afternoon. It wasn't a great solution with the bodies in motion, although the kids, they found some really interesting stuff to photograph that did get that idea across. And, they put together some decent little packages out of it. So
that's good. Could we shift? I want to talk a little bit about, projects and research and all the other things that they want us to do as faculty members. So for those of you who aren't faculty members, well, at Morehouse, teaching is 1/3, research and projects is another third, and service is the other third of our work. And so in times like this, it seems like teaching would take up 100% of your time, but we still have demands to be of service to the college through committee work and also do our own research and projects. So Mark, you do a lot, and I don't know how you do it all, but could you talk a little bit about, how do you find balance? Do you say no? What do you do in this time of not only teaching, but doing all of your job, which is a number of responsibilities outside the classroom, and outside of student engagement?
Well, the first thing I'll say is that if there's any young faculty members out there, I should absolutely be the role model of what not to do with your academic career. Because, my full-time job is teaching. And then my other full-time job is being chief technology officer. And then my other part-time job is working on the Georgia Climate Project. And then my other part-time job on top of that is administering the NPPA's Best of Photojournalism competition. And then I also, teach at Poynter and some other places as well. So I believed for a very long time that time was malleable, and it turns out it is not, that there is a finite amount of time. And so I have actually really struggled with this. This is not something that I have done well this year. I have constantly felt like I'm behind, much further than I usually feel that I'm behind. And I think, you know, I'm glad that for my research faculty, my research colleagues here, UGA has been very open and said that they'll extend the tenure clock for anybody that is, tenure track. They're not going to put as much emphasis on course evaluations because they know that all of our courses were pure chaos for 2020. So UGA has been remarkably progressive in the way they're setting expectations for faculty and staff here as well. I think one of the things that's really important that maybe as journalism faculty we're not so good at talking about is how do we care for ourselves during all of this, because it's, we've spent a lot of time tonight already talking about how our students have handled this and how we've tried to help the students and be there and be open and let them talk and sort of work through all of their emotions. But for all of us that are on the other side of the podium, we're going through something that we've never gone through before as well. I think any of us that are on this session tonight, I know, Mickey, this is definitely true for you, and you've brought up comments from Rob and Martin, who I know both of them very well. We're all really passionate about being there for our students, and so we're going to do everything we can. We're going to work late. We're going to work weekends. We're going to answer emails when we get up at 5:30 in the morning to walk the dog. We're going to do whatever it takes to make sure the students have a good experience, because we know that what they're going through is hellish. But we're going through the same thing, and I feel really lucky that both here at UGA, I've got colleagues that I trust and can lean on, and spread out across the country, I've got friends and colleagues at other institutions that are going through the same emotional load. We want this experience for our students that we cannot give them, and so we're all struggling to figure out how do we connect with them and not lose too much out of these conversations. And I think it's really important that we give ourselves a break. I know that I'm not doing my best teaching this semester. There's no question in my mind that there's more on the table that the students could get out of me. But at the end of the day, I've got to go home to a wife whose business has basically disappeared, to 2 kids who are 20 and 22, and they have no idea what's going on in the future for them, and 2 dogs who are very surprised that I'm home as much as I am these days. And all of those are different things that we have to kind of wrestle with. And so I think it's important for us to accept the fact that we can't do everything that we want to, that the grace we're extending to our students, we've got to extend to ourselves at times. So.
That is true. That's true. And that's good to hear, because, I feel like I'm at that point of, okay, just one more week, and once one project ends, the next one has already started in my head and is never ending. And I've myself, and I find a number of faculty members at Morehouse who are non-tenure track, where nobody is saying this, but there's also this, back of our heads where it's, well, I have to say yes. I have to say yes. I'm on an annual contract. I need to make sure I'm valuable. So,
right.
This summer, I worked all summer, and, we're 10-month employees. And, and it was just keep moving. And no one said keep moving, but there's that feeling that I have to do this to make sure I can continue. But as you're trying to continue, you can get burnt out. So yeah, I know for me, I did the one small thing where I took my work email off of my phone. And so I have to go to my computer and set my time to actually see my work email. And my 13-year-old set my phone where only program numbers ring my phone. And so there's just little things that I've done just to compartmentalize, because I don't know how to say no. That's a challenge for me. And I think it is for many of you listening.
Can I ask you this question?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that desire to do more, to be equally split between wanting to make sure your students have the best experience and pressures from the institution? I know there's an awful lot of faculty members around the country that are very worried. If you read the Chronicle for Higher Education, it's almost every day they've got another story about colleges planning layoffs and budget cuts. And I'm not part of the
Mhm.
tenured faculty here, so if there are budget cuts, theoretically, my line could be on there. What have you done to communicate with your department heads and dean to make sure that they understand the value that you bring to that program?
Well, we are a very small program of 2 faculty members, and so the head of the program, Ron Thomas, he is a sports writer. He covered Magic Johnson and Larry Bird when they were in college, and so his frame of reference for journalism is focused to what he knows well with his network, with what he's accomplished, and helps students in a number of ways. For me, he comes to me with anything related to today's digital media space. So I know when it comes to the journalism, what I know, what I teach, looking at innovation and bringing innovation to the classroom, I know I'm the only one on campus that does that. And so the concern isn't within our program. I just, there's this thing in the back of my mind that says if the CFO is making cuts, the CFO isn't looking at each individual faculty member and contributions. And, that's the stuff that's just in my head where decisions are made in a space that is not a space where neither Ron or I are privy to. So that has been very real because they've done furloughs, they've done cuts. We have no adjunct this year. And so we all have a 4-4 teaching load. And so it's a lot and cuttings in pay. What I did was I became a certified Blackboard trainer, and so I'm able to work with faculty members who are not comfortable with online to help them with their courses, and now we're having to promote and constantly send updates of our accomplishments, student accomplishments, faculty accomplishments every month. So there's a lot now in my mind that takes me away from my own research and projects where it's just student centered and campus centered. And I've lost that time, or I have to wake up early or stay up later to work on my projects, which is what I find myself doing um, a lot. But that's where I find I get the boost of energy. You said something about balance and taking time out for ourselves. And a challenge I face is when I'm carving out time for myself, that means I'm actually doing more work. I'm doing the projects that I want to work on. I'm not necessarily taking a nap or going to a yoga class. So I have at least dedicated the hours of 5 to 6 a.m. for meditation, for workout, for my own time in the garage, and nobody can disturb me. So I know I have that hour. But after that hour ends, it's the juggle of family, online school, and then my own work. So it has been a lot. It has been a lot.
I got lucky that over the summer, every Saturday, I was able to go out in the morning and mow the lawn. And nobody bothers me when I'm mowing the lawn. It was about the only time that nobody would harass me because nobody in my family wants to come out and help do yard work. So I could go mow for 90 minutes and trim for another 30 to 45 minutes and then tighten the screws on the fence posts and, anything like that just to stay outside and away from phones and computers and tablets and televisions. Just,
Yeah. Yeah.
I started mowing the lawn slower and slower every single week. I think it's safer to say. So
I can see that.
find that moment.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's good. So it's, the other thing that and you may know this, so I think that this can be helpful, but with limitation. If I think back to 2017, that's when we had hurricanes, 2 Category 5 hurricanes, Irma and Maria, were back to back. And they went through, a lot of us know, the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. And my family, I have family in the Virgin Islands. I also have family on an island called Barbuda where Irma hit and destroyed every building and almost every house on the island. And I had this survivor's remorse. And I started, shipping food and supplies to family members. And I was like, this is not making me feel better. Doing fundraisers, it's not making me feel better. But what I stopped and I thought about where are my skills and what do I know how to do well? And that's storytelling. And I can pick up a camera and tell a story. And so for me, I went to St. Thomas, I went to Barbuda, and I started documenting. And it was helpful for the people I was documenting, but it was also this experience for me that helped me feel like I had control of something. And that's something, you know, I'm comfortable with. So not that I have the time, but in this 2020 year, I've done a lot more coverage, and it's coverage for my own projects, for my own self that I can then write an article about. But I've shifted to doing more stories of going out and covering protests, interviewing students about their stories. And that's helped me, but it's also helped them to be able to express themselves and share their stories. So, for those of us that don't know how to say no, sometimes if we tap into the gifts we have and what we do really well, we can carve out that time to mow the lawn. But if we don't have a lawn, like I don't have a lawn, you know, we can pick up that camera and actually pour some love into what we know how to do well and feel that control. Um, so I do want to share a clip. It's a 5-minute clip of a student, and this is the student that shifted everything for me. It was I was talking to a student one who was driving from Atlanta to Virginia every week in March, and we would talk about her work. And in one of the weeks, she shared with me that she was going to Virginia to take her mother to her chemo appointments, but her job was in Atlanta, so she couldn't do school from Virginia. And when she shared that with me, I just stayed positive and spoke to her and, you know, just encouraged her to keep going and doing what she needed to do. But when I hung up that phone, I was drained and I realized I'm not a therapist. And the phone calls came in with students and I was just taxed. I didn't know what to do. And so in April, I received a phone call from a Morehouse student who was not in my class, but knows me. And he said, I've lost 5 members of my family to COVID in the past week. I'm in the Bronx. I don't know if tomorrow's going to come. I don't know what to do. I'm worried. And so he was very upset, but I was in this state of, I don't have anything to offer. I did nothing. I didn't know what to say. And that was when I wish I had a psychologist next to me to just like whisper in my ear, but I didn't. And so I went back to that, where are my skills? And I can interview and I can ask questions. And so I said to the student, do you want me to record? Do you want to tell your story? And I can record it. And it can be helpful if we share it with faculty members to know what students are going through. Because a lot of us are so focused on Blackboard and online teaching and assignments, we're not in touch to know exactly what you're going through. And so we did that. And that was something that helped him, but it also helped me. And it also helped our faculty know what students are experiencing. So I do want, if you don't mind, I want to play that. It's about 5 minutes, but I do want to play Julian speaking. And this was a point where he just said, I need something. And I don't know what it is, but I need some motivation. And so that was what this interview did. And we recorded for over an hour. And it ends on a very positive note, but I did want to just take the slice where he's talking about his circumstances and what he was experiencing for you to hear. Hours. What I'd like to do is start off with you just introducing yourself. So who are you? Who are we talking to here?
I'm a first-generation college student and American. My mother is from Honduras. My dad's from Jamaica. But in my typical Morehouse intro, my name is Julian Hemmings. I'm a senior English major from the Bronx.
So tell me what your days are like. What's going on? Assuming I don't know that there's a pandemic. Tell me what's going on right now in your life.
Well, I think the pandemic has defined my existence here more than any moment in my own existence. But I think whenever America sneezes, the Bronx has a really, really bad flu. So my father's not at home right now. He's off to work in Manhattan. because he's an essential worker as a security guard. My mom is at home because her job has shut down temporarily. But my mom is okay. Everybody's okay in the house. But I can't say that my days are not covered with anxiety for my father, are not covered with anxiety for my family members. I've lost many due to COVID-19. Members that I was close to, I've lost them in a matter of weeks. The world that I once knew, the Bronx, New York being so busy, the city that never sleeps, feels like it's in a coma. The days seem faster because we're not going outside. It's dreary, but what I found myself doing in the moments like this is not accepting the world just as it is, recognizing it as it is, but trying my best to make a difference in it.
What is it you would want people to know about the student experience? If you had to shed light to faculty members, to administrators, to the public when they say, "Oh, how's it going?" What would you want them to know?
Some of us don't have the privileges to have a functioning laptop. Some of us are homeless. Some of us are dealing with depression. Some of us are dealing with or will be dealing with PTSD after this. Some of us don't know what tomorrow may look like for our parents. Some of us are losing our loved ones. Some of us, but all of us are feeling this pain. And I hope that everyone can have a sense of empathy for those young people who are having to do all this work, pay all these loans, in spite of losing this time in their lives at this moment. So it's painful.
You mentioned losing family members. When you are dealing with the loss of someone you know, when this hits local, when this hits at home, how do you deal with that? What does that mean
I
for
don't
the
know.
next
I
day?
don't know. I don't know how I deal with it. Honest, I don't know. All I know is that I'm working and I'm helping people and I'm using their memories to motivate me. But there are moments where I deal with it worse than other days. I don't know how I deal with it, to be honest with you. I've been trying to figure that one out. I've been writing. I've been contemplating. I've been angry. I've been appreciative of their lives. I don't know if I'll ever get over it. All I know is that my compassion has grown. My love and appreciation for my own family that are alive now has expanded. But have I dealt with it? No.
You said your dad is an essential worker. Have you had conversations with him about what his day is like?
Yeah, I mean, people at his job have passed away. People in the building that he secures. Like I believe it's been, I don't know. I think the number last time he told me it was 10. I worry for him. He worries for himself. I worry for my mother that he can bring something back to the house. But, you can't be a security guard from the comfort of your own home. And, we got to make rent. This is, I mean, like this is real life, I think for me, what I can do is I can just go to law school and this no longer becomes my existence. And in a strange way, I think I appreciate coming back home because I get, it allows me to be more empathetic because it doesn't take me away from my community. We're humble, working class people. So his day is not good. I mean, when he's driving past NYU and there are the trailers and just for body bags, I think his days, he expresses a nervousness, but he might be more fearful than he's letting off. I would be.
Yeah. So that was a portion of Julian sharing. And what that did, he talked about empathy, but it did make me think about what was most valuable and being able to have this situational awareness of what students were going through and not think so much about, the logistics of everything, but really at this point in time in our lives, what's most valuable. So they still are learning, but they have people like us who they can call. And then how do we respond in a way that doesn't have us just crying every night and taxed, And so for me, that was, how do I become that journalist and start recording and documenting some of these stories? And for Julian, what was really good was we went from this conversation to Ahmaud Arbery to post George Floyd's killings, and he became a central figure in protesting. He actually became a delegate for the DNC, and expressed his support for Bernie Sanders, and was like, I'll support Joe Biden, but Bernie's my man, but I don't have the privilege of not voting for Biden. So we're going to do this and have a movement. And so he started orchestrating student movements with voting. And so he's done a significant amount as it relates to voting, but we keep having these conversations, and it's helped him, but it's also helped me. And so that's something that I know a lot of us can do, our own aspect of storytelling. If we do want to tap into making sure we stay active with our research and projects, it may also be looking at how can we be supportive to students, but also start documenting these stories, because no one else is going to cover them, because they feel so comfortable with us and we have that access. So how do we do that in a respectful way as we juggle everything? So a question came into the queue. What'd you say?
I was just going to say, we spend so much time in our classes talking about giving voice to the voiceless. And what I love in that piece is that you gave voice to somebody who may have felt that they were voiceless. And so while it's important to document the experience that our students are having, what was probably more important there is that you were willing to listen. That by asking him if you could record that conversation, you were honoring who he is and what his experience is, and saying, look, your experience is important. It's important that other people understand what you're going through. And that validation, that may have been worth more than anything else to him, in the spring when you had that conversation. I don't think we can ever underestimate how important it is to help a student feel that there's somebody who's willing to listen to them. I just, that's so critical for these kids right now. I mean, I see that every time I walk into the classroom, every time I log on to Zoom, and I see faces staring back at me before they click off their cameras. They're desperate to be heard again. So.
That is so true. That is so true.
Yeah.
And
Thank
I've actually, oh, thank you. I actually, I have some alum that I'm in touch with that I just have asked them to be available to students also, to, and you mentioned alum giving feedback and mentoring. I think that's another thing that's really good to tap into. Alum want to be involved and give in some ways. They don't have to just donate money, they can donate time. And that's been helpful for me when I felt overwhelmed with not having, a lot of students, when they see you're on Instagram, they then want to send a DM and then want to call. And that may be 10 o'clock at night. So, I had to start going through my list of alum that I could say, okay, you're in law. Could you talk to Julian? Can you be somebody that he can talk to about law school? So as I'm trying to line up students who have certain career interests or location, the Bronx is home for Julian, but also home for a number of people that are in my network. My family's from the Bronx as well. So tapping into alum has been helpful in this time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Mark, I was going to ask you about this summer with protests. Did you have students at all, studying or working over the summer or reaching out with questions about protests and covering protests?
I did. So I wasn't teaching over the summer, but
Apartheid were taking place. When I was in high school, the Rodney King killing and then riots that resulted were taking place in Atlanta. So a number of my friends who were in college at the time were tear gassed by police, were, on campus where they were seen as people that were doing all the harm. And so there are stories of that, but I've never lived through that. we protested misogyny in rap music when I was in college, but it was on campus, nothing major. And so what I realized was this point in time is one that I can't dictate or orchestrate the role that a student plays when they go out there. I can give them the tools that I know with being safe, but I actually step back and let them run with what they wanted to do. And what I saw result, one of my students, his pictures got picked up on the New York Times. I was so proud of him. Another one, I introduced him to virtual reality, and next thing you know, he's got everything in 360 that he's recorded. And what I saw was the role that they took as protesters gave them the upfront inside access, that they were able to share stories, and feel as if they were a part, because they said they couldn't be there without being a part of it. And the work that they've done has just been tremendous, and it's made me proud. And it's also allowed me to look at, I'm not your photo editor. You're not on assignment. You're just going out and covering this. Why not go and cover and protest and do what you want to do in these spaces where you don't have an editor saying, what else do you have? That's what I have in my mind when I go out to cover, but that doesn't mean they have to have that in their head. Not at this point in time. So what I think a big win was, as we reflect and have these conversations now this semester about everything, it's looking at the responsibility. They see responsibility, they feel it, they are connected to what's taking place today, and they feel like they are helping share voices in ways that other people may not be able to. And the learning lesson of what we do as journalists, they've learned in this summer of protests that they couldn't learn in a classroom. And they could have, but they've learned it so much better by experiencing the work that they've done. That's been a huge win that I see.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we're in our final minute, and I have questions that are in the queue. One that did come up was about sharing syllabi. And Mark, I don't know if you want to mention your website, but if people want to see syllabi or work, where can they go?
So my website is woefully out of date at the moment. If you go to visualjournalism.info, there's a tab across the top for classes, and you'll probably be able to see some old syllabi. None of the current ones are up there. One of the decisions I made over the summer was that I was going to simplify the platforms that my students need to pay attention to. And I'm really glad that I did, because one of the biggest complaints that I'm hearing from my kids is some of us are completely in the learning management system, and some have added Slack channels and Trello channels and text chats and GroupMe and all of these different platforms. And the students are really struggling to try and stay on top of things. So if I can offer one quick piece of advice to everybody as you're planning your spring semester, simplify. Whatever your university's learning management system is, no matter how much you hate it, and trust me, I hate ours, just use it. Make your kids' lives easier. You want to be teaching them journalism and problem solving in journalism, not problem solving and trying to figure out where an assignment is due. But if there's somebody out there who's interested in seeing my where I started the semester at the very least, I'm more than happy to share those syllabi with them. Just drop me an email. I'm easy to find on the college's website. So.
Thank you. And Mark, you're here today. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and if anybody's got good ideas on how to teach a documentary photojournalism class in the spring when we're still not allowed to let students be near people for more than 10 minutes at a time, I'm all ears on that one, because I'm starting to scratch my head an awful lot about how to do that class. So.
Well, I was going to say, you're here tonight because of what you shared. I know with me, when I went to my first Teacher Palooza at Poynter Institute, in that you were seen as a resource. I've seen you as a resource, and your site, but also these learning lessons, I think, are valuable. And for all of us here, there is this network that we can tap into with each other. And hopefully we'll be seeing you at the seminar in 2021. But throughout this year, know that we're here, and you're not alone. And as we all shift and adjust our priorities, it's important, of course, we think about the students, we think about our colleagues, we also think about our own health and what we're doing. So I really appreciate you, Mark. I appreciate everyone who's joined us. And any questions that were not answered, what we'll do, if you can just make sure if you asked a question that was not answered, you also send us your affiliation or your email, and we can get back to you with some of those responses to those questions. But thank you, and everyone enjoy this semester, the rest of the semester, and good luck. Also with this week and the conference, enjoy the sessions, and I look forward to meeting some of you and talking to you. Mark, thank you.
Thanks for putting this together, Mickey. This has been awesome.
Thanks so much.
Okay.